Welcome to Defense Briefing. The content of the briefing includes: international law is failing displaced Gazans. Turkey's Pegasus Mulls new aircraft order adds routes to expand. UK to send 2 Royal Navy minehunters to Ukraine. Zelensky to meet US President Joe Biden, House Speaker as aide stumbles. US considers missile launch notification framework with China. International law is failing displaced Gazans. Bloomberg. The current international law is not sufficient to protect civilians in Gaza from forced displacement during times of war. The law does not require that warnings given to civilians are actually followed, or that civilians practically be able to follow them. In addition, there is the issue of safe zones, which legally both Israel and Hamas would have to agree to establish. The international community must therefore step in and assist displaced Gazans where international law fails. Turkey's Pegasus Mulls new aircraft order adds routes to expand. Bloomberg. Turkish low-cost carrier Pegasus is considering placing another aircraft order to support its growth plans into the next decade. The airline recently agreed to purchase 36 Airbus jets, and the strong demand to Turkey and the addition of a second runway at Istanbul's Sabiha Gökçen Airport provide impetus for further expansion. Pegasus plans to double its capacity and is adding at least 6 new destinations next year. The airline's current plans prioritize new destinations in the Middle East, North Africa and the Baltic states. Pegasus sees the Middle East as an important growth opportunity, despite having halted flights to Tel Aviv and stopped flying over Israeli airspace in October. UK to send 2 Royal Navy minehunters to Ukraine. BBC. The UK Royal Navy will transfer 2 minehunter ships to Ukraine to help strengthen the country's sea capabilities. The move aims to reopen vital export routes that have been limited since Russia invaded Ukraine. However, questions remain over how the ships will be able to enter the Black Sea, with Turkey controlling access through the Bosphorus. The UK is also launching a coalition with Norway to provide long-term support for Ukraine. The provision of the ships has been planned for some time, as part of a package of UK maritime support promised before Russia's invasion. Zelensky to meet US President Joe Biden, House Speaker as aide stumbles. Al Jazeera. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky will visit Washington, D.C. on Monday for talks with U.S. President Joe Biden to discuss the importance of continued U.S. support for Ukraine's defense. The visit comes as Biden attempts to gather support for a $106 billion military aid plan for Ukraine and Israel, which was blocked by Republicans last week. Some right-wing Republicans are resisting efforts to send more money to support Ukraine's response to Russia's invasion. Zelensky's office confirmed the planned meeting with Biden, with key areas of discussion including defense cooperation between the two countries. U.S. considers missile launch notification framework with China. Nikkei Asia. The U.S. is considering a proposal to exchange missile launch notifications with China, according to a senior State Department official, after President Joe Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping agreed to stabilize their tense relationship in November. Launch notification is one of the concrete measures under consideration within the U.S. government, the official said. The U.S. and China should take initial confidence-building measures such as launch notification to help build trust, the official argued. The agreement signed in 1988 between the U.S. and Russia requires each country to let the other know about plans to launch strategic missiles, such as intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs, and submarine-launched ballistic missiles, SLBMs. Officials say a U.S. pilot safely ejected before his F-16 crashed into the sea off South Korea. Associated Press. An F-16 fighter jet crashed into the sea off South Korea's southwestern coast on Monday. The U.S. Air Force pilot ejected safely and was recovered by South Korean maritime forces. The pilot is in stable condition and is being evaluated further. The cause of the crash is under investigation. This incident comes just a week after a U.S. Air Force Osprey aircraft crashed off southern Japan, killing all 8 people on board. Sudan, Red Cross decries deadly, deliberate convoy attack. Deutsche Welle. The International Committee of the Red Cross, ICRC, has condemned an attack on one of its humanitarian convoys in Sudan's capital, Khartoum. The paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, RSF, and the army chief have been in conflict since April, and the ICRC convoy was intended to evacuate over 100 civilians. The ICRC called for the protection of all civilians and said the attack was shocking and appalling. The Sudanese army claimed that the attack occurred after the convoy breached an agreement, while the RSF accused the army of being responsible. Sri Lanka's dispatch of workers to Israel farms sows controversy. Nikkei Asia. Thousands of Sri Lankans have registered with the Sri Lanka Bureau of Foreign Employment, SLBFE, to work in Israel's agricultural sector, despite safety and ethical concerns. The interest in working in Israel comes as Sri Lanka struggles to recover from its worst-ever economic crisis after plunging into sovereign default last year. In November, Sri Lanka's embassy forged an agreement with the Israeli government to immediately hire 10,000 Sri Lankans to work on farms. The initiative has angered many among Sri Lanka's Muslim minority, who broadly support the Palestinian cause. Sri Lanka's Minister of Labour and Foreign Employment, Manusha Nanayakara, has defended the decision to dispatch the workers, claiming that certain political groups are trying to exploit racism for their own benefit. However, critics argue that the arrangement calls into question the ethics of Sri Lanka's military ties with Israel, as well as its own management of migrant labor. Cheyenne Sellers makes sure Maryland's Big Ten opener brings a boost. Washington Post. Cheyenne Sellers showed the aggression and confidence her coach Brenda Fries has been asking for as she led the Maryland Terrapins to a fifth straight win in their 71-58 victory over Northwestern. The junior guard had 13 points, 10 assists, 8 rebounds, 5 steals and 2 blocks. Hey there, folks. It's your favorite observer from the sixth dimension, Dr. Six. I hope you're all doing splendidly today. Now, let's dive into the news and see what's been happening around the globe. First up, we have a rather concerning report from Bloomberg about the failing international law when it comes to protecting civilians in Gaza during times of war. It seems that the current laws are not sufficient in ensuring the safety and well-being of the people. The issue of forced displacement and the lack of practical measures for civilians to follow warnings is a major concern. It's clear that the international community needs to step in and provide assistance where the law falls short. Moving on, Turkish low-cost carrier Pegasus is spreading its wings and considering expanding its fleet with a new aircraft order. With the addition of a second runway at Istanbul's Sabiha Gökçen Airport and the strong demand for travel to Turkey, Pegasus sees great potential for growth. They even have plans to double their capacity and add new destinations. It's clear that Pegasus is ready to take flight and explore new horizons. In other news, the UK is lending a helping hand to Ukraine by sending 2 Royal Navy minehunters to strengthen the country's sea capabilities. This move aims to reopen vital export routes that have been limited due to Russia's invasion. However, there are questions about how the ships will be able to enter the Black Sea, with Turkey controlling access through the Bosphorus. Nonetheless, the UK is committed to providing long-term support for Ukraine and is working in coalition with Norway to do so. Next up, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is set to meet with U.S. President Joe Biden in Washington, D.C., to discuss the importance of continued U.S. support for Ukraine's defense. This comes as Biden tries to gather support for a military aid plan for Ukraine and Israel. It's a crucial meeting, especially with some right-wing Republicans resisting efforts to send more money to Ukraine. Let's hope they can find common ground and ensure Ukraine's security. Now, here's an interesting development. The U.S. is considering a proposal to exchange missile launch notifications with China. This comes after President Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping agreed to stabilize their tense relationship. The idea of launch notification is seen as a confidence-building measure to build trust between the two countries. It's a step in the right direction, and hopefully, it will lead to further cooperation and stability. In a rather fortunate incident, a U.S. Air Force pilot safely ejected from an F-16 fighter jet that crashed into the sea off South Korea's coast. The pilot is in stable condition and is being evaluated. The cause of the crash is still under investigation. It's a relief that the pilot is safe, but it's a reminder of the risks our brave servicemen and women face every day. Moving on to Sudan, the International Committee of the Red Cross has condemned an attack on one of its humanitarian convoys in Khartoum. The attack is a shocking and appalling act, and the ICRC is calling for the protection of all civilians. The conflict between the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces and the army chief has been ongoing, and it's disheartening to see the impact on innocent people trying to receive aid. Let's hope for a swift resolution and the safety of those affected. In a controversial move, Sri Lanka has dispatched thousands of workers to Israel's agricultural sector, despite safety and ethical concerns. This decision has angered many among Sri Lanka's Muslim minority, who support the Palestinian cause. The arrangement raises questions about Sri Lanka's military ties with Israel and its management of migrant labor. It's a complex issue that requires careful consideration and ethical decision-making. Now, let's take a quick break from the serious news and move on to some entertainment updates. Dave Grohl, the legendary frontman of Foo Fighters, volunteered with a non-profit organization in Melbourne, lending a hand to feed those in need. It's heartwarming to see celebrities using their platform for good. In other entertainment news, Australian game developers House announced their latest project, Big Walk, a cooperative puzzle and exploration game set in the Australian bushland. We can't wait to see what they have in store for us. And of course, we can't forget about the world of memes. Nicki Minaj's fans, known as Barbs, have created an AI-generated pink wonderland called Gag City to celebrate her new album, Pink Friday 2. It's a whimsical and creative way to show their love and support. Alright, folks, that's all the news we have for today. I hope you've enjoyed this journey through the latest happenings in our world. Now, it's your turn. What are your thoughts on these stories? Do you have any burning questions for me? Let's keep the discussion going. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the world around you. Dr. Six, signing off. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.